On Saturday 22nd of June we drove north to Dunkeld to meet up for Ed Shoote's Route 15 gravel ride. Ed's book is a great resource, and having not done any gravel riding up this neck of the woods, I was really looking forward to this route. We had a dozen gravelers turn up and we set off through the woods. It was nice to welcome along 3 group first timers in the shape of Grant, Joe and Jill. Our rides are open to all, so why not consider joining us on one? This was a great wee fairly technical start to the day. I stopped off here to get some footage of a lovely waterfall before we continued our warm up towards the first of 2 main climbs on the route. A quick question. Has anyone ever seen Danny with his new gloves and Captain Caveman in the same room? I thought not. The 2.6 mile climb started just after the wooded section and sat fairly steady around the 8% mark. It was a rather rude start to the day, and it took a wee while for the legs to warm up. Unfortunately, Shug had to retire at this point and head back to the car park due to a grumbling knee. Jill was making it all look rather easy on her e-mountain bike, much to our envy at this point. There are 2 options here, a low and a high road. We took the low road, sounds like a song, which involved around a 2 mile plateau before a fast descent. This was a pretty rocky section and I ended up dropping my chain here. I got the drone up, but because we were so high it was rather windy above the trees and she was struggling a little. Just after this I noticed that Jeremy, our guide for the day, had stopped, so I followed suit. It turned out that we just missed a right turn. Unfortunately, a couple of the lads had battered on and we had to wait for them to climb back up. We didn't laugh much, except for Joe, who seemed less diplomatic and laughed a lot.
With options, so not too fast, in case you maybe end up having to climb again.
It was nice to get a chance to catch breath after the climb, as there's always a bit of work in a descent. We crossed the plateau and then got to enjoy the pretty fast descent back down towards the road. Near the bottom of the descent, the track had subsided and washed away, destroying almost half of the surface. We stopped to make sure that no one fell foul of this and picked our way through the bottom section, trying to avoid the occasional patch of stinging nettles. Thankfully I managed to avoid the majority of them this week, as my legs have only just recovered from not avoiding them last week.
Thank you. Thank yourself. Have a nice day. You gonna do one? Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Don't be a stranger.
No, definitely not. I'm doing it every time. Enjoy it, everybody. Yeah.
Sure.
Imagine, enjoy the rest of the time.
No worries. Have a good day.
After a slight detour to say hello to Cat's ex-riding instructor, we popped out onto the B898. This is a nice quiet wee road which winds its way through a lovely countryside while skirting the banks of the River Tay. We cycled through a couple of pretty little villages and past some anglers and waders in the river. Grant, Mike and Jeremy got on the front for the road section, which was into a headwind, and had us fairly motoring along the road. Good work, lads. Details of this route can be found in Ed Shoote's brilliant book, but if you'd like to follow any of our other routes, you can do so by following me on Strava at Douglas Gilligan RACC or on Commute at Specialised Doug. After around 10 miles we stopped in at the Grand Tully Hotel for lunch, where too many of the fat lads at the back sat on the bench opposite me and managed to break it. To be fair, the wood was pretty rotted.
They're not mine, but I'm going to have one anyway. Typical Ouija. Honestly.
What?
The generalisations that you have to put up with. Especially coming from Sassenachs and talking about Ouijas.
After an educational lunch where we all found out what lovage was, we set off for about another mile on the road before turning off up a farm road, which then led us on to the start of the second major climb of the day.
I promise I'll not put that profile in.
A lot of money went into that.
Exactly, that's what I bought and paid for.
Initially this was quite a rough farm type road which then passed through a field. The climb in total gains 1250 feet over about 5.5 miles, and although this only equates to an average gradient of around 4%, it certainly feels a lot harder than that, possibly due to the combination of the rough surfaces and fluctuating gradients.
I feel like catching white bats in.
At this point I put the drone up, and we then had a difference of opinion as to the route. The majority of the group headed straight on, whereas Jeremy, Chris and Grant doubled back and took a left spur which was signed dead end. After waiting for a bit for them to come back, and they didn't, Danny and I chose not to take the dead end option, which ultimately proved to be the right decision, with the lads advising that the dead end was a nightmare. This time we all laughed. We then approached Loch Kennard, which was really pretty in the sunshine and was a pleasure to skirt.
It's a leg skeevy peevy.
Oh, you capped to it about 20 minutes ago, mate.
After the loch there's a wee bit more climbing before you hit a nice fast descent, and this leads you up to the Griffin Wind Farm. Just be careful here though, as the gravel gets a bit chunky in places and the descent is a pretty quick one.
Steady. It's a good ride, it's like a 42 mile ride. Half roads, half gravel.
On entering the wind farm we cycled along a plateau for a couple of miles which afforded some lovely views looking south over the valley. As wind farms go, this is one of the prettier ones that I've cycled, and we were pleased that there wasn't much wind about. There were a few tired legs about at this point, and Kat ended up getting it tight for promising that there were no more hills when there actually were one or two little ones that she'd forgotten about. The drop down from the wind farm is via a pretty steep, rough and zigzagging track. When we got to the bottom, I was very impressed to hear that Grant had actually managed to climb up to the wind farm from this side. Chapeau, sir. That could not have been an easy climb. This was a nice wee single track section heading back towards the Hermitage, where we ended up retracing our steps back to the car park. This is Jeremy having to practice his skids, probably due to me being a bit heavy handed on the brakes in front of him. After another missed turn, Danny had hit the front by default, which hadn't been a frequent sight in this ride. Thankfully he didn't get a nosebleed. I thoroughly enjoyed this route, which is relatively short but challenging. Thanks again to Ed Shoote for putting the route together and for his inspirational book. Descending back through the woods was great fun. It was flowy, a wee bit technical and really entertaining, weaving through the trees, rocks and roots. Thankfully Shug was able to entertain himself during the time that we were away, and he managed to get some flatter miles in, which were a little bit more gentle on his knees.
Well done, son.
Cheers, Biggie.
Daniel, son. Well done.
You love the smashing day.
Yeah, you're lovely, buddy.
Now we're back at the car.
And not only that, how many outfits will they go with? Well done, Jezza. Well led.
Well,
Magical mystery tour.
exactly.
Stevie boy. Well done, son. Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Shug.
I don't even get a half
Oh
of
boy,
it.
you boy. No, you made it go. You can't help it if you're injured. Yeah, good one. And good screaming.
Thanks for watching this video and I hope you enjoyed it.
Very much. Well done, Joe. Good to
Cheers,
meet you,
Jockey.
buddy.
That
Good
was
to
a
meet
lovely
you, man.
day. Thank you very
Ah,
much.
that was good. Well done.
A hot donut with Biscoff sauce and a cup of strong black coffee was just perfect after that pedal. In the ride by the numbers, we covered 32 miles with 3,300 feet of climbing.